Thank you for tuning in to this informational video for a proposed medical office and drive-through development located at the northwest corner of the Naranja and La Cañada Drive intersection. My name is Hannah Oden, and I'm a senior planner with the town of Oro Valley and the lead staff reviewer for this application. The purpose of this informational video is to provide updated information about the applicant's request since the last neighborhood meeting. A second neighborhood meeting is scheduled for December 12th, where you will be able to ask questions and share concerns directly. During this video, I will first describe where we are in the process and opportunities for public participation. I will then go into some history and background on the parcel. Next, I will briefly describe the applicant's request. The applicant has 4 applications that they are requesting approval of. The first is a conditional use permit for a drive-through. The second is a change to a grading exception condition from 2006. The third is a conceptual site plan for a medical office and drive-through development. And the fourth is for architecture for the medical office buildings. I will then go over neighbor concerns and issues that were discussed at the first neighborhood meeting. Then the applicant's representative will provide a presentation. I will close by highlighting the next steps in this process. So where are we in the process? The first neighborhood meeting was held in June of 2019. Since then, we have received a formal submittal from the applicant. This informational video was posted on November 23rd, and a second neighborhood meeting is scheduled for December 12th and will be open for both in-person and online attendance. Following that neighborhood meeting, the applications will be required to be considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council at public hearings. Please help spread the word about this proposal, video, and upcoming meeting. The property owners near the site have been directly notified by mail. Furthermore, the site has been posted with yellow signs. If you weren't notified and wish to be in the future, please send a request with your name and address to hoden@orovalleyaz.gov. The subject property is outlined in yellow on this slide and is located at the northwest corner of the La Cañada Drive and Naranja Drive intersection. It is approximately 2.8 acres and currently vacant. It is adjacent to the Cañada Hill subdivision, which is located to the west, and the Copper Creek subdivision is located to the east across La Cañada Drive. Burgers is located directly south across Naranja Drive, and the Oro Valley Public Library is located southeast of the site. The subject property is located within Area D of the El Conquistador Country Club Planned Area Development, or PAD, which was approved in 1983 and is shown on the map to the right. This zoning district allows commercial uses such as retail, offices, and restaurants. Years ago, the site had been excavated for adjacent road construction. As part of filling the site again to make it buildable, a grading exception was approved by Town Council in 2006 and included a number of development conditions related to screening and building height to minimize impacts to adjacent neighbors. The zoning of the property dictates specific development standards listed on this slide. The building height is limited to 28 feet from a grading exception condition that was discussed previously. Building setbacks are 25 feet from residential areas and 20 feet from public roadways. A minimum of a 15-foot landscape buffer is required next to residential properties, and a 30-foot buffer is required adjacent to public roadways. The applicant is requesting approval of 4 applications that ultimately require approval from Town Council. First, a conditional use permit is required for any drive-through use. Second, the applicant is requesting to remove a condition from the 2006 grading exception. Third, a conceptual site plan package is required, showing the site layout, parking, and landscaping as shown on the right side of the slide. Lastly, the applicant is requesting approval of conceptual architecture for the medical office buildings. I will go over all of these in more detail in the following slides. All drive-through uses require a conditional use permit that must be approved by Town Council. A conditional use permit provides an extra level of review for uses that may be more impactful to neighbors. Review criteria include that the project is not detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare in terms of things like noise and odor. A noise impact study has been completed as part of this application. As staff, we also review for compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood and for conformance with the general plan. Hours of operation may also not be negatively impactful to residents. And as with all drive-throughs, staff will review for traffic impacts relative to safety and circulation. Drive-through uses are also required to be a minimum of 250 feet from residential properties. However, this distance can be reduced by town council if there are significant barriers such as buildings or roadways. The applicant is proposing to reduce this distance from all adjacent residential properties. Drive-through uses may also not be developed until at least 50% of the remaining site is built, and drive-through stacking lanes must be screened from public roadways and residential properties. The applicant is also proposing to remove a grading exception condition that was approved by town council in 2006. The condition requires an additional 15-foot landscape buffer outside of the existing drainage channels at the north and west portions of the property and a 6-foot screen wall next to residential properties. The applicant is proposing to remove the additional buffer yard requirement. It should be noted that while the condition required an additional buffer yard, the site design still satisfied the buffer yard requirement in the zoning code by using the existing drainage channel to meet the buffer yard requirement. The applicant is also proposing to remove the requirement for a 6-foot screen wall adjacent to residential properties. However, the zoning code still requires a 5-foot masonry screen wall and overlapping tree canopy when commercial development abuts residential properties. A conceptual site plan is required for this development to show building layout, parking, circulation, and landscaping. This slide shows the original site plan on the left side of the slide that was presented to neighbors during the first neighborhood meeting in June 2019. The revised site plan that will be presented at the upcoming neighborhood meeting is shown on the right side of the slide. As you can see, the site design is similar, but more room for vehicle stacking has been provided for the drive-through building at the southeast corner of the site, which is circled in yellow. The conceptual site plan consists of 3 medical office buildings, which are outlined in blue, in addition to the drive-through. Access to the site is proposed off both Naranja Drive and La Cañada Drive. The applicant will go into more detail during their presentation. Lastly, the applicant is seeking approval of conceptual architecture for the medical office buildings. As there is no tenant for the drive-through building yet, the applicant will be seeking approval of that at a later time. The architecture for the medical office buildings include colors and materials that are found on adjacent commercial properties. The front facades of 2 of these buildings are shown on this slide. As staff, we review against specific criteria for these types of applications. Criteria includes conformance with the Your Voice, Our Future general plan, compatibility with the surrounding area, traffic and circulation, and for zoning code compliance, including specific criteria for conditional use permits and drive-throughs. At the first neighborhood meeting in June of 2019, numerous issues and concerns were raised by neighbors. Concerns included impacts over noise, odor, traffic, building height, and negative impacts to property values. These issues will be addressed by the applicant during the upcoming neighborhood meeting on December 12th. I will now turn it over to Mr. Paul Oland from Paradigm Land Design, who is representing the property owner, to provide additional details about the proposal. Mr. Oland.
I'm Paul Oland with Paradigm Land, representing the property owner. As Ms. Oden mentioned, the property is located at the northwest corner of La Cañada Drive and Naranja Drive and is currently zoned for what the Cañada Hills Planned Area Development calls Village Center Development, that could include retail, restaurants, residential uses, a hotel, offices, and a number of other uses that would be appropriate at this location at the intersection of 2 arterial roadways. The permitted building height is 3 stories and 38 feet. However, the development that is proposed is more neighborhood scale than many of the permitted uses and will include 4 single-story buildings, 3 of which will be for office use, and the 4th, which is on the corner, will be a drive-through restaurant that we're planning as a coffee shop. Vehicular access will be via La Cañada and Naranja. The existing southbound right turn lane on La Cañada will be lengthened, and a new westbound turn lane will be installed on Naranja at the project entry. Pedestrian connections will be made to the existing multi-use paths adjacent to the property. No rezoning is needed because all of the proposed uses are already permitted or conditionally permitted by the existing zoning. The request is for 3 development-related approvals. The first application is for a conceptual site plan, which is a necessary step for development in Oro Valley, and which lays the groundwork for more detailed engineering later on in the development review process. The second application is a revision to an existing grading exception. Several decades ago, in support of the construction of La Cañada Drive, a significant amount of dirt was removed from this property, creating two large pits. Several years later, the pits were deemed a public health risk because they did not adequately drain stormwater. The property owner at the time sought to fill the pits and create a shovel-ready pad, which was entirely reasonable given the property's commercial zoning. Although the pits were created as part of a regional public infrastructure project, the depth of the pits and thus the required depth of the fill to fix the problem necessitated approval of a grading exception, which was approved in 2006. In retrospect, one might wonder why that approval was necessary when such a clear public benefit was associated with filling in the pits that were themselves created as part of a much larger public project. Equally odd is that the exception included several design-related conditions of approval, despite the fact that the associated staff report clearly stated that the grading exception relates only to the grading of the site and all other project elements are to be reviewed later. Well, here we are 16 years later, and now that a project design is proposed, we found that one of the 2006 grading exceptions design-related conditions of approval is unnecessary. So we're proposing to revise the exception to delete that condition. Specifically, condition of approval number 6 states that a 15-foot landscape buffer must be provided on the east and south side of the existing drainage channel running through the property, so that together with a screen wall, a tree canopy is achieved to provide visual screening for the nearby property owners to the north and west. The existing drainage channel contains significant mature vegetation that provides more meaningful screening than would a 15-foot landscape buffer right behind the proposed buildings. Trees and shrubs will still be installed along the top of the bank so that the town's landscape buffer yard requirements are still met.
All right.
This slide shows the conceptual proposed architecture, which is more modern but still complementary to the nearby commercial architecture. The third application is for a conditional use permit, or CUP, which is required for this drive-through because the property is within 250 feet of a residential area. Again, the restaurant use is already permitted, so this CUP is only pertaining to the drive-through itself. The actual menu board will be over 250 feet from the nearest homes to the east, which are also separated from the project by the entire La Cañada Drive right-of-way, 4 lanes of traffic, 2 turn lanes, plus 12 to 15 feet of elevation difference. The menu board will be well over 300 feet from the nearest homes to the north and west, and separated not only by distance and the drainage channel with its landscaping, but also by the other buildings proposed within this development. With modern acoustical controls, the menu board will have no impact on any nearby residences. Again, this request is to permit the proposed drive-through restaurant's lease boundary to be within 250 feet of nearby residential properties, even though the actual menu board will be well over 250 feet away. For reference, the dashed white circle shown on this map represents 250 feet of distance from the proposed menu board location. Conditional use permit approval requires that a design meet several criteria demonstrating that the impact of a proposed land use won't unreasonably impact nearby residents, or that such impacts can be effectively mitigated. This slide and the following 5 slides list the criteria along with how this project meets or exceeds them. Feel free to pause the video to read the details or download the submittal materials from the town's website. Thank you. This is slide 2. This is slide 3. This is slide 4. This is slide 5. This is slide 6.
Thank you, Mr. Oland. I'd like to close by reiterating the next steps of this process. The next neighborhood meeting will be held on December 12th, where you'll be able to ask questions and voice concerns directly to the applicant. You will be able to attend this meeting either in person or online. Following that neighborhood meeting, the applications will be considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission and ultimately Town Council. Please use ovprojects.com throughout this process to stay informed. We will continue to notify property owners who received a yellow postcard for this meeting and post the property with yellow signs for upcoming events. Again, I would like to reiterate that it is important to hear your comments and questions. Community participation is what makes Oro Valley a special place. Please send any questions, comments, and requests to be included in future postcard notifications for this project to hoden@orovalleyaz.gov. And please stay up to date by checking ovprojects.com under the project name shown on this slide. Thank you for watching this video and be sure to join us for the upcoming neighborhood meeting on December 12th. Thank you.